Chaos. Let's talk about chaos. You want to? All right. Good morning. Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. I'm Steve Smith. How do you respond to chaos? How do you deal with chaos? How do you do in the middle of chaos? I want to talk about thriving in chaos, the importance of being able to thrive in chaos, and how you can go about working toward that if you need it. There's probably some of you out there do very well in chaos. It's a matter of being acclimated to it and experienced in it, and not letting it drive what you do. Um, Many years ago, when when I used to train people in certain things, one of the first things that I would tell them that if they were able to do well, if they were able to thrive in situations that made other people uncomfortable or afraid, they'd already won more than half the battle. One of my favorite lines is from the poem "If" by Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. The world, when we think about chaos, we think about things falling apart, right? The world's swirling around us. So many things going on that it's difficult to keep them all straight, or keep our mind on what we ought to be able to 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 register on and do. I'm reminded of a quote that was sent to me by a friend of mine years and years and years ago, apparently or said to be by a Russian officer, and he said, "Why?" Says, "Why, Army officer?" Said, "America wins all the wars." That's back when we, actually won wars. Because war is chaos, and the American military practices chaos on a daily basis. I've said this before, not being in the military. I'll leave it up to my military brothers to let me know whether that's true or not, but it was given to me by a friend of mine from the Army, so I'll trust him. But we all experience chaos, don't we? The world is a crazy place. We can't control the world, and so things will happen. And everybody can experience a different chaos. That you can experience your personal chaos. Could be, the loss of a job, a personal situation, all sorts of things. And I'm going to get into some of that later on in this talk. From what a very good friend of mine, I hope I remember when I get to go, and sometimes I forget, what one of my best buddies had a presentation at our recent gathering, and he talked about some personal chaos in himself. He was given a talk on emergency field medicine. But when we think about chaos in a preparedness sense, we tend to think about the collapse of society, the collapse of the financial system, the collapse of the government, all sorts of things. Chaos, 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 right? Kind of what's in my books. And a lot of people, I see a lot of people in the preparedness world kind of, dealing this with some kind of frantic energy that really keeps them from being able to determine or focus on solutions. And I see this in other channels too. I watch channels that just, I don't watch them, but I occasionally see them. And it just seems to be all over the map about all of the things that you need to be afraid of. And that's not the way I approach it here on integrative preparedness. That's for any new people that are here. Now, we talk about solutions. We talk about dealing with those things that are threats, okay, regardless of how many come along. I've been accused throughout my life of not caring, which isn't true, but so many people have said about me, "Man, why doesn't that upset you? Doesn't anything bother you?" Our mechanic last time that we took one of the vehicles out there, and I don't know what I forget what he was explaining. It wasn't that big a deal, but he looked at Kelly, because she was there with me, and he said, "Doesn't anything bother him?" And Kelly's kind of said that the same. She said, "How is it that you don't get bothered by all these little things?" And I said, "Well, first off, they're little things. Why should they bother me? Secondly, uh, if something needs to be addressed, uh, or not, if something comes along, maybe I need to deal with it. Maybe I really don't. Maybe it's somebody else's chaos. I don't get involved in other people's chaos and drama. But if it needs to be addressed, what is getting upset going to help? It's just going to keep me from being able to address a problem as well as I could if I weren't upset, if I were thinking clearly, right? So I've been accused, and I know that there are different personality types like that. I wasn't always like this, but experience teaches you. The more you involve yourself in something, the more normal it becomes. Simple as that. And after you've lived in chaos for so long, it just becomes life, right? And so you're not batted back and forth by all these things that seem to be coming at you all the time. You're just thinking, okay, here I am. As long as I keep myself centered, we're going to be all right, and I'm going to be all right. I'm going to be able to make the best decisions. But I see that so much, the preparedness world, the preparedness business, if you want to talk about it that way, thrives on fear, right? I mean, you understand that. It thrives on fear because most people are driven not by calm, right, but by fear. You can carrot or a stick. You can either lure something with a carrot or you can drive it with a stick, and most people, to be honest, are easily driven through their fear. And so that the news has done it forever, and that's kind of the way that the preparedness world drives people now. Well, I want to tell you that is exactly the wrong way to do it. This is not something. Your preparedness should not be driven by fear. It should be driven, like I've said before, by that proper sense of responsibility for yourself and to those who rely on you. My buddy Mark, I'm glad I remembered this. I'll slide this in here. Out at our gathering this past weekend, I asked him to put on a short presentation about emergency field medicine. We also had a former combat medic there. It was good to have you there, buddy. And we had, by the way, I want to say, we had an exceptional group there. I won't say, I don't know if I should say I was surprised, but I kind of was because, when you look at the prepper world en masse, you see a wide spectrum of behaviors and personalities and things like that. And I want to say that our gathering, I was amazed at the solidness, that's not a word, but how solid the people were. I mean, these were not people who were driven by chaos. They were people with in many cases, great experience, great life experience. I could see it. I could recognize it in their calm and in the way that they talked and in the way that they addressed things and the way that they obviously approached life. These were very, very solid people. And I do have to say, I was surprised. I expected it to really be a cross section of everything from the really, solid to the, clear on down to the, but maybe I shouldn't have because, I mean, they were viewers of this channel, but I really was. And I could tell that the people at the gathering were not those who were the kind that would be driven by chaos. They were the kind that would be led by their good judgment. Okay. But anyway, Mark, let me take a sip of this first. I'm going to drink out of this gathering mug for quite a while. I enjoyed myself so much. And so Mark was explaining. I asked him to talk about emergency field medicine. And one of the things that he told me, and it's been a long time since I got out of law enforcement, it reminded me, let me put it that way, when you arrive on a chaotic scene where you have a lot of people yelling and screaming, you can't be responding to those screams and those yells. I mean, you have to, you have to pay attention. You have to properly identify, okay, why is that person screaming? What's going on over there? Kind of like if the president were speaking and somebody was yelling, hey, there's a guy on the roof with a rifle, you might want to pay attention to it and try to do something about it. But I digress. So, he explains to people when he teaches new people, I said, because he was a retired paramedic. And he would teach his young people that when you arrive on a scene and you've got people over here yelling and screaming and stuff, he says, don't be misled by them. Don't be drawn to them immediately because they're screaming. That means they're breathing. Okay. Watch for those people who are, it looks like they're not yelling and screaming because they might be going into shock. Their blood pressure might be dropping. You need to go to those people. You need to be able to identify the priorities. Okay, triage is the term that's used. Identify the priorities. And it's the same in life. He gave an example in his own life. And towards the end, I was glad he got into it. I was kind of surprised, Mark. I was surprised at this because Mark's not usually one to share anything personal with the world. He started talking to him about the importance of their health as relates to preparedness. Now, Mark has lost 65 pounds in 9 months because he said he had gone through a period of time. He's always been a big guy, big horse of a guy. Not fat, but he would say, but he. And he went through some issues in his life, some things that many people, it would have killed him. He went through a divorce. He was going through a divorce. His mother passed away, and his mother was he won't mind me saying this because it was so inspirational. And he talked about this at the gathering. And his mother was his foundation, his solid rock, the one person that he could go to and would give him advice, and that he knew, you know how we are with our mothers, right? Even when we're older, our mothers and our fathers, if we're lucky enough to have good fathers. I did. But while he was going through a terrible time in his marriage. He was going through a divorce that just about tore his life apart, as those of you who have been through them can attest. And his mother went through a long, prolonged process and died. He had other things, and then he was losing his job because he wouldn't take the poke. Excuse me just a second. And there were other issues that I won't share. This man went through more than you could imagine, all at once. All at once. And I've seen people just destroyed by this stuff. And I've seen people destroyed by one of them. And I won't get into the particulars of it. And he went through it strong, kept on working, kept on being the rock on which other people leaned, the person that other people depended on and didn't let them down. And during this time, he said he put on a lot of weight, right? Mark, I hope you don't mind me talking about this. But it's something for other people to learn from. Well, he got through that stuff, and he got through it with God. Now, afterwards, he realized he needed to return to a better life and take care of himself. And that's when he started going on carnivore. Kelly and he said, Kelly, that's my wife for all of you new people, he learned so much from Kelly as a result of Kelly telling him and what I had done with my own carnivore experience. He went on carnivore, has lost 65 pounds in 9 months. I barely recognize him now. He looks like he could be playing college football again, or high school. He made a statement in there that to the group, and we have a lot of believers in the group, and he stressed the importance of God. Now, If there's anybody out there who's turning away at this point because you don't want to hear about this, let me say you're making a huge mistake. And you are ensuring that your life will continue in chaos. Because I assure you, no matter who you are, you can't do this life without God. Oh, I know. You think you can. No, you can't. You can't do it well. You can survive it. Why do you want to do that? You want to survive. You want to really live life. You want to thrive. Okay. When I talk about surviving or thriving in chaos, the one example I always use is the one of Jesus walking on the water. There's a couple instances of that in the Bible. In this case, Jesus had been preaching. He remained on shore while he sent the disciples across the lake, and he'd remained on shore to pray. And in the middle of the night, the Bible says, a storm arose. The disciples were frightened, and they looked out and they saw Jesus walking across the waves. And at first it says they thought he was a ghost. They were frightened. You can imagine, right? And he said, "Fear not, it is I." He might have said me. I don't know. And Peter says, "Well, Lord, if it's really you, bid me come to you." And Jesus says, "Good, come." Well, Peter steps out of the boat, raging storm, right? Right in a raging storm. But he's trusting. And he's kind of challenged us. He said, "Well, okay, if it's really you, prove it to me. Tell me to come out to you." Okay. Because he believed in Jesus' ability. So he steps out of the boat and he starts walking towards Jesus. And then all of a sudden, the Bible says he saw or recognized the storm around him. Now, does that mean that he didn't know there was a storm around him? No, he knew there was a storm. That's why they were frightened, right? He knew there was a storm. But then all of a sudden he saw the solution. He saw the one in whom he had trust, Jesus. And so in that moment of trust, in that moment of faith, he stepped out of the boat and started walking. And then it says he remembered or saw the storm, which means he took his eyes off Jesus. He took his eyes off the solution. And he started to sink. And he reached up, "Lord, save me." Boy, how many times have I done that? How many times have you done that? Right? Probably more than we should have. We should have only had it done once. But, oh, ye of a little faith. Me. I'm not pointing at you, pointing at me. And you know, it takes enough of those times for us to remember, okay, man, he saved me, 500 times before. Why am I worried now? Well, anyway, I'm getting off track. He reached up his hand. He said, "Lord, save me." Jesus says, reached out his hand, brought him back up. The lesson there is, the lesson beyond the fact of the place to put your trust and faith is in God himself, is keep your eye on the solution. If you focus on the chaos around you, you're never going to know what to do. You're going to live in fear. But if you keep, and you're not going to be able to get your eye back on the solution. Keep your eye on the solution, and you're not going to be affected by the chaos. You will be affected by the thing you keep your eye on. Okay. I used to teach the people that I taught in martial arts. I said, you can't control whether somebody's going to swing on you. You can control whether it lands. Okay. You can control how it affects you. You can't control whether people like you, don't like you, give you a fair shake, don't give you a fair shake. You can't control. It's a big old world. It's got 6 billion people in it, and everybody's got their own agenda. And guess what? Most of them, their agenda doesn't include what's best for you, right? Don't worry about it. You can't control that. You can't control the world. You can't control I was going to say you can't control what the government's doing, but I'm going to do one in a few minutes when I get done with this on the American Reversion channel, where I talk about politics, about what's happening in politics now. You know, you can't control everything yourself, but you can do your part. Let me just throw that in here. But you can't control that. What you can control is how you allow it to affect you, and how you allow it, how you react to it, or through your own intelligence and ability to distinguish, you know, the different importance of things, how you respond to what you see is going on. It doesn't mean ignore the chaos. It's there, but you have to recognize, do I have to deal with this or not? Or do I just have to pay attention to what I'm doing to keep myself safe as this chaos is spinning around? Okay. Sometimes you have to do things, sometimes you don't. But preparedness is not about responding to every little thing that these people want to throw out at you and tell you to be scared of today. Preparedness is a methodical response to the challenges of an uncertain world. It's a matter of, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, next month, next year. We don't know. But we do know what we need in order for us to continue to live a good life. First, the good Lord, and then ourselves, faith and trust in ourselves, and our families, and our friends, and food, and water, and shelter, and defense, and community, and all these things. So, that's the thing about chaos. If you find yourself ever, you know, going, I can't take it. And I see people in the prepper world, you know, I see it on YouTube, people getting all upset, you know. I just can't take the stress. I'm angry. Oh, whatever. Don't fall for that. Don't fall prey to that. Because what it's going to do is going to fill up that part of your mind and take up that part of your energy that should be applied to the solution. Right? Okay, makes sense? All right. Hey, remember, like we always say, we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. Prepare yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You don't really prepare yourself spiritually. You ask the good Lord to take care of that, and then He does it. We rely on ourselves too often when we need to rely on Him. There is a way that seems right to a man, but leads to death. Are you familiar with that one? Right. His way is the way. Okay. You all have a good day. I already said it, but I'm going to say it again. We prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. You cannot prepare well if you're frantic and caught up in the chaos. Okay? Be at peace, be calm, decide what needs to be done. I'll talk later about a presentation that Mike Hoskins gave at the gathering. Those of you who are on Patreon know Mike. He comments a lot, and it's about the development of groups, and he did it so well. Okay, you all have a good day. I'm going to make that one for American Reversion. If you care about politics, join us over there. The link is down below. If you're not with us on Patreon, the link is down below. You should be. Love to have you over there. The links to my books are down there, either through Amazon or through our website, stonemont.us. You all have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.